you get it? Cool. Look like a beauty queen.
Good.
Sexy. Anyway,
You are live.
I'm live. Hey everybody, Jerome Maldonado, and welcome to Real Talk on Real Estate. It's Wednesday afternoon, 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited today. We're going to be talking to all of you folks out there that want to hear my story on how I made $80,000 in the first house that I bought a piece of land on and developed real estate on. I'm going to teach you guys today the simple steps on how to go out and buy a lot and make between $60,000 to $150,000 in profit each and every year. We good? Was that recording? Did it have a video? Good, we're good. Okay, so we got Daniel in the background. Daniel's been traveling with me in different parts of the country. We have a lot of projects going on, a lot of great stuff. We got projects going on in Phoenix, and we got projects going on in Washington State. We got projects going on here in Albuquerque, stuff in Puerto Rico that we're pressing on. And it's been busy. Through this pandemic, I would have never expected to have had this much project flow coming through the woodworks. And I'll tell you that everything that we're doing is super viable. But I'll tell you, the one thing that got me started back in the day was going out and buying a single lot and building a house. And it's profitable. I still do it today. I go out and develop land. We'll go out and maybe have 40 home pad sites, and I'll only build 5 or 6 of them out myself, but I'll do about 5 to 10 of them every single year. At the busiest, we got up to 12 homes per year, and that becomes a lot to manage. But I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, think about it from a perspective on the American public. If 95% of America made an extra $60,000 to $150,000 a year, think about how life-changing that would be for the American population. Now, obviously, not everybody can be out there building homes, but imagine if you're just one of that very small percentage of people that have the capability, knowledge, and wisdom on how to do it. And think about what an extra $60,000 to $150,000 a year, if that was all you did, would do for your lifestyle. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it did a lot for mine. And I remember in early years, I was doing a lot of different stuff. Now, we had a 7-figure company, construction company. We were pouring concrete and stuff. And I learned how to sell. I learned how to market in early years. And one of the things is I wasn't the smartest kid in school. In fact, I was a C student by a margin. You know, I struggled to get C's, and my motto was C's get degrees. And I exercised that. And it wasn't until later that I realized that I wasn't the dumbest kid in school. I just have learning disabilities. And so if someone like myself, who's a wild horse of a kid, can go out and make a business work so financially viable, you can too. It's just a matter of implementing a system and a process that I've been implementing for well over 20 plus years. And the reason I created such an incredible process was I landed up making a ton of money in my first business endeavor back in the mid 90s. And then I lost it all in 1997, and I had to start from scratch. And I sat back and said, you know what? I need to replace that income. I need to figure out a way how to do it quick. It took me about 1.5 years to figure out how to do it. And once I figured it out, it was lucrative, and we've been pushing through since that time, since 1998, all the way to today in a very lucrative industry, construction. An industry that I was taught that if I would land up in if I didn't go out and get educated. And hence, I went out, got a degree, went through pharmacy school, and lo and behold, I never used my degree. In fact, I hang it on the wall. I use my degree on a professional level. It allows me to be able to probably speak better, write better, and spell a little bit better. But I'll tell you that I've made more money in the industry of construction and real estate than I have in any other industry. And ladies and gentlemen, this is how I actually did it. So in 1998, I started a concrete company. We were also doing drywall and metal stud framing. By the year 2000, I started making some money, bought a couple rental homes. And by 2001, I said, you know what if I just buy a single family lot, just a single lot, and I built a house on it? You know, I'm already in construction. I didn't know how to build a house. In fact, so much so that I asked my dad. My dad built one house his whole life. He wasn't a general contractor. He was an accountant and had been an accountant for 32 years. And I told my dad, I didn't even know how to use Excel at the time. And I told my dad, can you help me build an Excel spreadsheet, adding up all the costs and expenses, and just go through with me exactly what steps I need to know step by step on how to build a house. And I knew my dad knew how to do it because he literally built one house. It was our house when I was like in 2nd grade. And I remember him building it with his bare hands. Some of my uncles and cousins would come over and help him on the weekends. But he literally built the whole house. It took him almost 1.5 years to do, or longer. And he built the whole house himself. And it was the house I grew up in all the way through high school. And they did very well with it. Sold it. I think he built the whole house back in those days for like $75,000. Sold it for like $350. Built their next house cash. Hired a general contractor to do that one for them. While I was in college at the time, I remember they did that. And so, ladies and gentlemen, off that simple spreadsheet, I sat down. I figured out what the maximum amount what I was able to spend on buying a lot in order to have the profitability that I wanted. And my business plan was to make anywhere between $80,000 and $100,000 on the house. Now, I wasn't good enough to make $100,000, but I made $80,000 on the very first build I did. Now, what was cool is I already had cash flow coming in. I had a business. So for those of you guys that are wanting to quit your job, this isn't something that you want to just go out and just quit your job and do, because this is going to supplement your income. And I tell my kids, I said, look, my kids tell me, Dad, you work too hard. I don't want to do anything that you do, because right now they're kids, right? They watch how hard we work to be able to go out and develop a business. And one of the biggest things is I tell them, look, you don't have to go out and work as hard as I work. We'll sell the business. But there is one thing I want you kids to learn even when you go off to college, because my kids will go to college. I think it's important. It's a great part of life, a great social part of life. It helps them be able to go out and grow up a little bit slower. We have the rest of our lives to be adults, right? And I tell my kids, you got the rest of your life to be an adult, but you got one shot at being a kid. College gives them that opportunity to be able to go out there, be on their own for the first time, and be able to go out there and have all those first-time experiences in a somewhat controlled environment, right? But I tell them, it doesn't matter what you go and get your college degree in. All I want to make sure that you guys learn how to do is how to buy a piece of land and how to build a house. Because if they do this, my daughter or my son, doesn't matter if you're a man or woman, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, it doesn't matter. You can go out and do the exact same thing. Some of the most renowned professionals in the home building industry and in construction are now women. Some of the best project managers on some of the largest commercial construction sites right now are women. They're badasses, and it's unbelievable. If you guys saw Lady Carpenter last weekend here on Real Talk on Real Estate, she was one small example of how women are getting involved in this industry, and they're taking hold of it, and they're running with it. And so I tell them, learn how to buy a lot and build a house, because I know if my kids can do that, they can make $100,000+ a year. If they only did that one time a year, it's not stressful, and they can do that part-time while they go off and they do anything else they're doing professionally. So if they're a firefighter, if they're a police officer, if they're a teacher, if they're an attorney, a doctor, whatever it is that they do, they have the means to go out and buy a piece of land and build a house, and they'll always be able to have a fluency in their life and their family from the means of doing just that one simple house. So if you're looking at this and you're wondering, can I do it? I'm telling you, anybody can do it as long as you know the process on how to do it. So I went and did that on my first house back in like 2001, 2002. And I didn't need the money. So what I ended up doing is I did the first house. I made about $80,000 in profit. I landed up taking out a home equity line of credit on my personal home and pulled about $150,000 out on it. And I remember my girlfriend, who's my wife now, my girlfriend at the time, she goes, you're going to pull money out of the house? And I was like, yeah. I said, I'm going to pull it out. I'm willing to roll this into a house, because I was confident enough in my abilities to make this work. And so I had done my homework. I had systematically laid it out, and hence the same process that I did over 20+ years ago, we still utilize to buy land and build houses today. Now we're buying mass acreages of land, subdividing it, selling it off to other builders and building a few homes a year. But lo and behold, it's the exact same process. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I went off and I landed up going in, and on the second house, I said, okay, I had an affluent business, so this may not work as fast for you guys as it did for me, because we were doing 7 figures a year, but I had already saved up another $100,000 or more, plus I made $80,000 on that house, and then plus I had the loan that I had. So I was able to go out after the first house, and I did a second house. I didn't have enough money to build out the entire second house, but I kept working my business to keep, so every $10,000, $15,000 that came in, I would keep that sheetrock, that's tile. And so I landed up doing 2 homes. And I did this all in 1 year. So I did the first one in 6 months. I got designs. It took me about a month to be able to get designs. I went through a book. I picked designs that were current and that I was able to find in a book from my architect. He duplicated them, made it fit on my lot. I changed bedrooms and little stuff around. I took his professional advice on stuff, and then I built the house. And lo and behold, it sold. And then I went in with the second one. I built the exact same house a second time, made some minor changes, flip the floor plan, and then I picked a second design, and I was doing this in the process of when I was doing my first house so that I could have 2 of them ready to go. Went out and bought 2 lots, and then I did it again. And the second time I got better. So on the next set of 2 homes, I made $90,000 per home. So that's $180,000 plus the 80 I built. That's $260,000. That was the perfect amount to be able to go out and do another one. Plus I had the money and capital that I used for the first house, and I landed up going back in and doing 2 of them again. So I did 1 house, then I did 2, then I did 2 again. Then I went from 2 to 4. Because then I took the profits from those first 3 homes plus the next 2, so the first 5 homes, and then I built 4 homes. And then I went from building 4 homes to building 6 homes, then from 6 to 8, then from 8 to 10, then from 10 to 12, and 12 is the most we've ever done in a year because we built spec. And then the recession hit. And then I landed up with a bunch of homes that were out there, and I had to sell them for a discount. But here's what's cool. All shit hit the fan in 1998. Home market changed. And because I had the ability to have a business plan set in place that worked, I didn't lose any homes. None of them went into bankruptcy. None of them went into foreclosure. I was able to build a lot of them cash because I kept working my business. I didn't say, hey, I want to quit my construction company. I didn't go, hey, I want to quit my job. I'm making enough money. To this day, I've just continued to revolve that capital, and it's turned into millions upon millions and millions of dollars that we've utilized. Now, we've diversified it out of the houses into commercial buildings, strip malls, apartment complexes, and everything else that you see that we do. But that money is still revolving and building to this day that we started utilizing in 2001. And we've been able to and we still have our construction company. That company has turned into a very lucrative company. We still own it today. We want to sell it at some point in time so we can retire from that and then just do our real estate full time. But why? My kids are busy. We're young, we're healthy. And so maybe in a year or 2 or 3, we'll sell it, But when you're making millions of dollars on your company, plus you're making millions of dollars on your investments, why would you sell it? Wealthy people don't sell. They get people to manage, and you go out and you expand, you diversify. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we landed up having a business plan in 2008 where we had to sell some homes for what I considered a loss, but they weren't a loss. We made, I think the least we ever made on any home that we sold was about $32,000. And to me, that was a loss because I lost my time. My time was more valuable elsewhere than making $32,000 on a house, but we still profited. We still made a profit. That's what was cool. So you look back, and I remember thinking, oh, I'm taking a loss. I remember telling my accountant, don't worry about that. We took a loss. We ate it on all those homes. And he's like, actually, you did. You made a profit on every single home. And so you have a tax bill. And I sat back and scratched my head and go, oh, shit, I have a tax bill. I wasn't expecting it because I literally thought I had lost money on those homes. And the least amount that I made on it was like $32,000, which in my framework at that day and age, I felt like it was a loss, but it wasn't. It was still a win. How do you lose when you still made $32,000 on the lowest profitable margin that you ever made on a house? It's still a win. It's still a win. I had one of my mentors one time sit back and he goes, hey, Jerome, he goes, I'm just checking on you during the recession. I know that things are stressful. I know you're in real estate. He goes, let me ask you something. Are you okay? Are you taking a profit? And he goes, Jerome, I met a man one time, and he always used to tell me, he goes, Jerome, in times of financial distress, sell everything. He goes, and take a profit. It doesn't matter if that profit's a penny or if it's $1 million. Even if it's a penny, it's a profit. And so my philosophy changed. I said, you know what? He's right. I'm hanging on to these homes. I have roof leaks happening in them. There are liabilities sitting out there. Nobody's renting them. I'm being stubborn because I don't want to sell them for a loss of what I thought was a loss. I finally said, you know what? Lower the price, sell those things. And even at a sales price that was over $60,000, $70,000 less than what I was hoping to sell it for, I turned around and made a $30,000 profit in a time when the world economy was falling apart and withering away right in front of my fingertips. And it was the processes that we used, how we managed those projects, how we built them out. And because we reverse engineered our expenses from the get-go, we knew where our profitability was going to be. So even if the market dropped by 20%, I still had a 10% profit. Even if the market dropped by 25%, I still had a 5% profit. And so it's that process that makes all the difference in the world. Do we have some questions, Daniel?
Nothing yet.
If you guys have questions in the chat, you guys are welcome to ask. This is Friday on YouTube. We're live with Real Talk on Real Estate. And today, we're talking about how to go out, buy a lot, and make $60,000 to $150,000 a year. Look, ladies and gentlemen, if you like the content that I'm talking about right now, you want to find out more about how we buy land, develop real estate, click below, give me a big fat thumbs up, give us a little bit of love. Our engagement requires from you guys, it requires your guys' involvement. Give us a thumbs up, pound that thumbs up button. If you like this content, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content just like this. Pound that bell and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do this every single Wednesday, 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, Real Talk on Real Estate. We're live from Albuquerque, and we got Daniel, the beast, right behind here, working with us. And if you're not privileged enough to be in our inner circle, you need to be. And so we have a small group of professionals that we've been working with. We do strategy calls every week with those folks. We spent 2 hours yesterday. Our strategy calls are usually an hour and 15 minutes. We went 2 hours yesterday. We have a small inner circle of people that we work with. Some really cool, sophisticated professionals that are learning how to do exactly what we're talking about today. And not only this, but they're part of some of our investment and syndication deals. They're part of a lot of what we're doing in different states. And they're learning both the residential and the commercial end. Because like I tell them, look, you can work, like buying a lot and building a house is like having a job, right? You just get paid more. It requires a lot less time, so it's more profitable, and you can do it on the side, but you can't do a full-time job on the side, right? And so I tell them, look, I asked everybody yesterday, I said, okay, what's your goals? What are your goals, long-term and short-term, and what do you want to see? Are you looking for more residual income? Are you looking for more passive income? Or are you looking just to make a shitload of cash and just be able to bankroll so that you can have money to invest in other places and then do what I was talking about as far as cash flow down the road? And so what it really came out down to is there were some people in different positions where they said, you know what, I want big and need big money today, but I want that passive income. And so I tell them, look, the goal is to be able to do something that can generate you capital, like real capital, that you can go off and instead of being scared of banks, instead of being scared of institutional money, instead of trying to figure out where to get money from, you learn the money game, you become financial literate, and then you take that capital and you reinvest it into cash flowing entities. And look, if that's somebody, if you're somebody that wants that same type of information, look, you can go to our calendar. In fact, put the link in there for people that are watching this today for a free strategy call, Daniel. You'll get Daniel on the phone. Daniel's been coached directly by me. He knows exactly the direction that we're going. And I'll tell you, the people in our inner circle just love Daniel because he's very active as far as communicative with them back and forth. And he's real diligent in regards to bringing their questions, their projects, their underwriting to our strategy calls. And so if you want information and being able to work with our team just like this, then click the Calendly link and go and schedule a free strategy call. I don't typically do this regularly, especially not on our lives, but I'm going to do it today because this is a big hot topic that we've been working with people on. And I'll tell you guys, right now in America, we've never had a residential real estate market this incredibly lucrative. If you would ask me a year ago, would you guys have seen me build content out that if we'd been here today, I'll tell you that I would have told you no. But we have a question, Daniel?
Question, Benny said, how do you get a construction loan?
So construction loans, the way you get a construction loan, you typically have to own the land. You know what's cool is a lot of times what we'll do is we'll go in, we'll raise capital, and so or I'll buy the land with my own money, then raise capital, get my money back out of it, or at least a good percentage of it. And then we'll go in because we have already acquired the property. So let's say you go in, you buy the land off with a hard money lender or on a bridge loan or through the means of owner financing where the owner finances it for you. And then you actually take ownership of that property. Then you go in and you get a set of plans. You need to have a project put together, get a construction loan. You can't just say, I want to build a house and get a construction loan. What you do is you go in and it costs a few $1,000s, $2,000 to $3,000, and they don't even have to be fully finished prints. You can get some that are preliminary prints that you spend just a few $100s on, or you can go online and there's websites that you can design your own homes. Depends how fluid you are at being able to design a house that fits on a lot. And if you have the capabilities, there's software that you can buy for like $100, $150 online. And then you can just go in, design your own house on your lot. And then you take conceptual drawings down to the bank, all rolled up. You sit them on the desk of the lending institution and the loan officer, and you say, look, I have this lot, I have this land. Here's my goal. I want to build a house on it. You permit it as an owner builder. You don't even have to be a general contractor. You take those prints over to them. Then they do an appraised value based on the square footage, to trim out and comparable homes in that area. The exact same way we reverse engineer commercial project is the exact same way that the banks go in and reverse engineer their comps to be able to fit their business model to make sure that they're not going in with too much equity on that project, and they make sure that you have equity in that project, so that way if they ever foreclose, they have enough money to be able to sell that property off at a loss. That's why a lot of times they'll only finance 80%, loan to value. But a lot of times for homeowners, just what's cool, if you're general contracting it, or you hire a general contractor that's working on a percentage of profits, the house typically appraises for about 100 grand more than what you're building it, and that's a great indication as to what your profit margin is going to be. So if the bank comes back and says, and let's say your goal is to sell that house for 600 grand, and the bank comes back and says the house is only going to be worth 500 grand, you sit back and scratch your head and say, are you sure? Maybe you didn't do your underwriting correctly, and the bank did. And so the underwriters are your friends. Say, can I see what comps that you're utilizing to get to that value? And now if you could prove the bank wrong, because I've done this before, and say, hey, I think you're missing some comps because there's this house, and this house that have sold. Have you taken those into consideration? And they'll say, our appraiser, I'll send them over to our appraiser and see. And then the appraisers will come back, because a lot of appraisers are not that smart. Some of them are really smart, and then there's a lot of them that just pass the exam and they're not extremely smart. So sometimes you have to educate the bank as well. That's why it's important for you guys to kind of know what things are appraised on, how to get comps yourself. But 9 times out of 10, you get a pretty affluent underwriter. Underwriters are pretty damn good. And with all the like Redfinch and all these softwares and stuff that are out there nowadays, there's a lot of information at your fingertips, and you can evaluate the cost and what those and what the sales price is going to be at the end. What's cool is they'll say, we'll give you an 80% loan to value. And so if you're building out a $500,000 house and you're going to sell it for $600,000, guess what? That $100,000 that you're going to make in profit is really your down payment. Now you go in, you build that house, including the land, for $500,000. You put it for sale. You may be zero out of pocket on having to get that construction loan because you've already acquired the land, and now your profitability is going to be the down payment for that construction loan before you stabilize the property. And then you go back in, you get the construction loan through the financial institution, then you put the house up for sale. When it's all done, make sure you have insurance just in case the house burned down or something catastrophic happens. Always get a builder's risk policy. You can get an underwriter to underwrite a builder's risk policy for a few $100 a month. Very inexpensive to be able to protect your liability. And Benny, that's how you get a construction loan. But you need a set of plans. You have to have a lot set in place, and then you go to the bank, and with a set of plans and a lot, you're able to go in and acquire a loan, a construction loan. So hopefully that helps. Okay, now I got a little off track there on my other part, which is fine, Benny. We entertain any good questions on that, and thanks for the intelligent question. But look, ladies and gentlemen, the truth of the matter is that anybody can do this. It's just a matter of whether you're willing to put in the time to learn, right? And so if you want to work with our team and learn how to do the step-by-step process, click that Calendly link, go in for a free strategy call, explain to us exactly what you're working on and what your aspirations and goals are during that strategy call. Daniel will simply tell you how you can get started working with us, with our team, or a process and tools that you can use to go out there on your own, some resources so that you can go out and figure out how to go out, buy a lot and build a house. Even without our assistance. So, but it's always better to have some professional assistance. Yes, Daniel, what question do we have now? What is it?
Luan, L-U-A-N.
What is the question?
For a first-time real estate investor, the concept of building a house is daunting. Besides research and the courage to jump in, what would you say should be the trigger to seriously get started?
You just have to do it. I'll tell you, everything's temperature taking. Every single project that I do, I've been doing this my whole life. And I'll tell you, it doesn't change. Every project is temperature taking. The best way to get started is learn your underwriting, do comps and become comfortable reverse engineering it. We do this with our inner circle team. The best way to make them feel comfortable is they find a deal that they think is lucrative and they bring it to the table in one of our strategy calls. We reverse engineer and underwrite it right there for them. And then I give them ideas of stuff that they've forgotten. Like yesterday, one of them forgot to underwrite the commissions. That's a big cost. That's 6%, right, of your entire profit. And so I said, have you considered commissions to the real estate brokers, the sellers and the buyer's broker? And they said, no. And I said, very important. And so, ladies and gentlemen, having knowledge is the thing that's going to give you guys that confidence. But I'll tell you that last week, I'll give a perfect example. I got a phone call from one of my business partners, Kyle Mitchell and Gary Limsky. They call me up. They say, hey, Jerome, we found a viable office building in the Phoenix area. I think we can convert it to multifamily. Here's the purchase price. Can we do this for X amount per dollars per unit for conversion? And I didn't know anything about the building, right? And I just thought, okay, well, it's worth a flight up there. I own real estate up there. Anyways, I already have business going on up there. May as well take the time to go out there and at least educate myself on the project. Well, then I get there and when I first get there, I start underwriting the deal, doing some research on it. And I'm sitting back scratching my head going, man, I don't know if this thing's viable. And if we sign these docs, and Kyle was sending me back, text messages going, should I sign the assignment and the purchase agreement? And I ignored it. And I'll tell you, the reason I ignored it was because I was scared, right? I'm human. I hadn't done enough legwork to really make sure that my side of the partnership in regards to the construction end of it was financially viable. So you can call it scared or you can call it wisdom, whatever you want to call it. I call it wisdom. So a small level of fear is good because it'll make you do your due diligence better. So the second I got down there and I started doing my homework, throughout the course of the day, things started to unfold for me. And I sat back and said, okay, now I know how to make this project viable. Now I know what needs to be done to make this viable, but I still didn't have time to sit down and reverse engineer the entire project. So I had kind of done it in my head. I knew there was profitability. I just didn't know exactly how much profitability. And then we were questioning the construction costs. So then I went back, called a buddy of mine up in the Northwest that's helping us out in Tacoma and Seattle. And I said, hey, you just finished building this exact same asset. We're getting ready to build another one. I know we underwrote it together. I can't remember the numbers because I have so many projects going on. Can you do me a huge favor and send me the expense sheet on what it costs to build X, Y, and Z project out? I want to compare this because the same garden style apartments that we're looking at building out in Phoenix is exactly what you just finished up in the Northwest. And so I sat down, I unfolded the numbers, and when I got the numbers back in, and then I reverse engineered it, I got Kyle and Gary back on the phone, and we went through all the numbers together. And the three of us together went back and we thought of different numbers we need to consider, cost for investors, how long the project was going to take, how many months or years we were going to have to take, it was going to take us to pay back not only investors, but institutional money. And we took all those costs and expenses into account. And then I came back with a profitability and I said, you know what? This will work. If we can do it. Now I feel good about the construction costs. The only variable was the renovation costs. And they're working on that actually right now as we speak. And so if we get confirmation on the construction, that's going to still stream it live?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. You tell me when we're back live, Daniel. We're back live? Did it cut the live off when it did that?
You're still on?
No, we're still live? Okay, cool. So on. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Daniel's a beast. He helped me get those batteries changed out. We just finished recording a short video just before we got this, so our batteries went dead. We should have changed it up before we got there. But guess what? This is Real Talk on Real Estate, and we're live, right? And so are circumstances. So we'll edit that out for the long-term video, but for all intended purposes, it's Real Talk on Real Estate, and we're talking to you guys here live today. So look, ladies and gentlemen, what I was making mention is that I feel more confident about the project today than I did 2 weeks ago. And as we move through the project, I'll continue to feel more and more confident because we're still going back and reverse engineering deals. So the answer to the question is, if you're scared, you got to get started. And it seems overwhelming. Everything seems overwhelming. When I got every single business that I've ever gotten started in, I get a pit in my stomach before I get started. And I sit back, always second guessing myself for a very nominal amount of time as to whether I'm doing the right thing. And then I stop second guessing myself. I smash the devil on my shoulder and I just move forward with things. But I do move forward with things logically. I just don't move forward with things frivolously where I say I go back in there and stupidly run forward with things not knowing what my end result is going to be. So the biggest variable, if you're scared, is knowledge. The biggest variable is figuring out how to underwrite the deal, reverse engineering. And that's why we created the Elite Real Estate site. That's why we have our online courses, but not only our online courses, but even be able to work with our strategy calls. That's why I put it together, because I know there's people just like you that seem overwhelmed. And you know, the reality is that I was overwhelmed on my first deal too. And I was a little scared. And I was sitting back going, oh my God, I hope this works, right? I had refinanced my house. I had put everything on the line again to do it. I had to make it work. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you buy the land right and you reverse engineer it, use some of the spreadsheets that we use, it works. You know, it works. If you use the processes that we use, it works. And so, nonetheless, it does seem overwhelming sometimes to be able to go out and do this stuff, but doesn't anything? Everything seems overwhelming. You know, when you first start college, it feels overwhelming. I remember walking to campus my freshman year in college, thinking to myself, holy shit, I think I'm in for more than I bargained for. You know, I struggled through school my whole life and I was scared. I remember walking in, my first class in college was US history. And I remember the instructor got in front of the room knowing that there was a bunch of freshman students up there. And he goes, this is a no bullshit class. He goes, if you think you're going to come in this class and I'm just going to pass you, you're mistaken. You're going to have to work. And I still remember this little Danny DeVito looking dude standing in front of the room. And I was sitting there starstruck going, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pass college. And it was my first class ever in college. And I'll never forget that day. I was overwhelmed. I sat back going, holy shit, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through college. Because I struggled through school my whole life. And now I'm sitting back, this little Danny DeVito dude is telling me that it's not going to be a joke and I'm going to have to work to get through college. And then I showed up the next day. And you know how you get through it? Is you show up every day. You continue to learn every single day. You want to go out and learn how to make $60,000 to $150,000 a year? Yes, you're going to feel overwhelmed. Yes, it's work. It's not like get rich quick, like, hey, I'm going to throw a toothpick house together and make a profit. No, it's work, ladies and gentlemen. And guess what? The first one won't be as simple as I'm making it out to be. But once you do your first one, you're going to sit back and go, man, really, that wasn't that hard. There's going to be stressful parts to it. But at the end of the day, isn't anything worthwhile a little bit stressful? The difference between this and most things in life is there's a means to the madness and it's a financial benefit to the madness. And so, yes, it's going to be temperature taking. Yes, it's going to take a little bit of work. But once you do it once, you're going to get better. And the second one, you'll do it easier. You're going to forget about things. And you're going to forget about things problems you had on the prior house. You're going to do the same stupid thing twice. But then you're going to get better. And the third one, you're going to get better. And the fourth, you're going to get better. You know, I remember about the 8th house I made, I jacked up the kitchen. I put this stupid pony wall in the kitchen and it made my dining room too small. You couldn't even put a 6-person table in there. And the house, I was selling it for like $450,000. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was like 18, 19 years ago. $450,000 is a lot of money today. It was even more money back then. And I couldn't sell the damn house because of that dining room. I jacked it up. And I resisted it. I resisted changing it. The house sat there for like 4 months. And I finally said, damn it, I'm sick of having this house sit here. And I landed up tearing out the island in the kitchen, had to redo the tile, had to reframe that wall, had to redo the countertops in that area. Cost me about $5,000 to $8,000. But then, ladies and gentlemen, the second I did it, within a few weeks, it sold. And so, whole point being is you're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen. You know, When you have a professional team around you, you know, it helps tremendously. But even that one house I jacked up, I still think I made like $85,000 on it, you know? So who cares, you know? I look back in the big scheme of things, it was a little stressful at the time. I knew what the problem was. The realtors kept telling me what people were commenting on it. I just refused to, I kept denying it, and I kept refusing to make a change. Finally, 4 months later, after it cost me time and money, I made the change. We sold the house, okay? So being overwhelmed, good, you're in a good place. It's gonna happen, it's normal. Just push through it, you know? It's like my first day in college, I was overwhelmed. You know, I remember when I opened up all my Subway stores and stuff, and I committed to a bunch of them. I remember flying up to Connecticut, sitting there at that train, and I was sitting back going, oh my God, what did I get myself into, right? I remember when I got started in network marketing, I flew across the country to go open up an office in Fairfax, Virginia, back in 1994 or whatever it was. And I just remember sitting back thinking, oh my God, I think I cried in my hotel room that night. I was so overwhelmed. I remember sitting back thinking, oh my God, I'm 33 hours away from home. Did I make the right decision? Am I in the right market? And I sat back there, and I don't think I slept a week the first night I got to Virginia. I went down to downtown Washington, D.C. to run an ad in the Washington Post. And I was scared to death. I'll tell you, I spent $300 for a little tiny Washington Post ad that was like three lines long on a one ad to be able to find distributors to work with me. And you want to talk about taking my temperature, ladies and gentlemen, you drive coming from Albuquerque into downtown Washington, D.C. at 4:30 in the afternoon during rush hour traffic into this big giant city and running that ad. And then you go to this little hotel room that was like a little crack in the box, little crack hotel room. That was all I could afford at the time, this little behind the wall motel. It wasn't even a hotel, it was a motel. I was overwhelmed. It felt very overwhelming. Guess what? I lived through it. I struggled for a little while, and I figured it out. And you'll figure this out too. Ladies and gentlemen, anything new is hard. I'm not going to sit here and promise you guys that it's going to be simple on your first one. I'm just sitting here to tell you that if you duplicate our system, it's lucrative, and you can do it. And I know you can do it. You just have to get started. The decision you have to make is, am I worthy of it? And am I willing to put in the stress on the first house? Am I willing to live with the extra stress for the next 6 months to a year? And if the answer is yes, then do it. You know, yes, you're going to feel overwhelmed. Yes, for sure, you're going to get that little pit in your stomach. I've gotten it. I've had it. I still get it sometimes from time to time. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Just push through it. Just push through it. Even when you're doubting yourself, just push through it. Wake up. I look up and just make the sign of the cross and go, oh my God, help me. Please, I'm going to need your help on this. Keep me confident. Help me through this. And I've never been led to the land of desertedness. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's very, very feasible, very viable. Is there any more questions, Daniel?
That's it for now.
Cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest part of the process is knowing the reverse engineering of how you do it. Because the reverse engineering of what we do, we take our 14 steps of how to develop real estate. Okay. And then there's an 8-step process in those 14 steps on how we go in, we assess land use, the cost for like utilities, how we go in and we assess all our expenses. We do our spreadsheets, and we reverse engineer our drywall costs, our lumber costs, our foundation costs, our plumbing, our electrical, all of our mechanical, heating and cooling stuff, the paint, the trim work, the doors, the hardware, the lighting, everything, the driveways, and the labor, the roofing, everything, the exterior facade. And we reverse engineer all that stuff. We include all of the real estate commissions, any loan that you have to service, any investors' capital you have to service. And this is exactly what we're doing in Washington State right now. In Seattle, you know, we're taking 24 single-family homes. It's a $25 million project. And the same way you're going to do one, we do it. And I could tell that my business partner, Raymond, he's never done 24 of them at a time. He gets nervous and is a little bit nervous and a little bit overwhelmed in the moment. And then he calls me up and I sit back. And for me, I've done them a bunch of times, so I don't get as nervous, right? Is there factors that I want to take into consideration to make me feel warm and fuzzy? Absolutely. Absolutely. But ladies and gentlemen, I already know the process. It's the process that works. It's not Jerome. I built the process. So originally it was me building a process that works. But every time I get off track of my own processes and I get sloppy because I think that I got it all figured out, I realize that I still need my processes in order to make it work and to make it as lucrative as I can. Anytime I start losing a little bit of capital or my profitability goes down is because I got sloppy. And so, ladies and gentlemen, all I tell you guys is follow the process. Follow the process. Follow the process. The process works. It's been proven. We've been doing it for 20 plus years. The question is, Are you willing to be able to follow the process exactly, or do you want to go out and create your own process? Our process works. You know, when I got into Subway, I remember Fred DeLuca came. I was buying stores. What happened was I was buying stores, and I was taking these broken down stores that were making like $4,000 a week. And I took these broken down stores and I said, okay, how do I make these stores more profitable? And I remember asking the development agents, the people down at corporate headquarters, and they kept telling me, the bread. You need good quality bread. And I was like, the friggin' bread? And that was one variable, like cook bread every day. Just make it the best bread you can. But let me tell you what really works. I'll tell you what really works. Customer service and a good quality product. That's what works. Creating something memorable. And so I marketed the hell out of these. But if you continue to market, looking for new customers, that's not what builds a business. What builds a business is to market and create an experience for the customers and get them coming back over and over and over and over again. And so when I got these Subway stores, I remember going in and I took these stores from $4,000 a week to $9,000 a week or $8,000 a week. But I doubled or more than doubled the weekly profits on these stores in less than 60 days. And Fred DeLuca came out and said, hey, Jerome, my development agent called me and said, hey, Fred DeLuca wants to know if he's flying into town to do it, to talk to the development agents and some of the field consultants. And he wants to know if you have some time to meet with him. And Fred DeLuca is the founder of Subway. And I said, and he since has passed away. But at the time, when he was still alive and very healthy, I said, yeah, I'd love to meet Fred DeLuca. Shit, you know, anybody that was worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he was a billionaire at the time. I think, I can't remember how much he was worth at the time, but I think he was the number 27th wealthiest person in the world at that time. And so, so he had done well, right? Top 125th money earners in the world, wealthiest people, he had done well. So I sat back and said, absolutely. And then Fred DeLuca came to me and he said, hey, Jerome, he goes, I'm just curious. How did you take multiple stores and double the income in such a short amount of time? And I said, you know, Fred, when I decided to get into the franchise industry, I looked at everything. I looked at Smash Burgers. I looked at Panera Bread. I looked at franchise after franchise. I looked at Haagen-Dazs. I looked at a ton of them. And I remember my broker, I remember him telling me, you know, introducing me to all these different franchises. And at the time, I was exercising the Ray Kroc model after the recession. I was trying to find a way to pay for my real estate through the means of other small businesses to come in and pay for my commercial buildings through the profitability in the business. And I remember thinking, okay, I feel overwhelmed with all of these other businesses and their business models hadn't proven themselves. I told Fred, I said, you know what I liked about Subway and why I became a Subway franchisee is because you, at that point in time, I said, you had more franchises than anybody in the world. And it was the #1 most affluent franchise in the world. You guys were doing more revenue even over McDonald's. And so if you're the #1 franchise in the world, you must have a system that you set in place that works. How stupid would I be to go out there, buy these stores, I told him, and think that Jerome's way was better than your way? It's Subway. It wasn't Jerome's way. It wasn't my general manager's way. It wasn't Daniel's way. It was friggin' Subway. Fred DeLuca, the founder, he figured it out. Why in the world would I think I had a better way if this gentleman became the 125th, 127th wealthiest person in the world and had the #1 franchise in the world? Why the hell would I think that my way is better? And that's the problem with most people, is they always have these incredible ideas. Well, shit, if you had good ideas and your way worked, guess what? I wouldn't have needed Fred DeLuca's Subway to do it with. I could have went out there and done it myself. And the reason I had done it is because I needed a duplicated system, I told him, that was duplicatable, a system that I knew worked and that I could just simply duplicate because I'm already busy. I already had the real estate going. We already had the construction company going. We already had stuff going. I didn't have the time to go out there and reinvent the wheel. I didn't have the ability to go out there and make it Jerome's way. It was Subway. Fred DeLuca, I told him, all I did is duplicate a system that you proved worked. The people that don't make it work, which is the mass majority of them, they're changing shit. I didn't want to change anything. I told my staff, it's Subway, keep it that way. It's not Mike's way. It's not Sarah's way. It's not Roman's way. It's Subway. Keep it Subway. And ladies and gentlemen, what I'm telling you guys to do is my system works. I've been doing it. I proved it. Don't go off and try to make it your way. Do it our way. Our way works. I proved the system. I've been doing it. I'm still doing it today. I got a $25 million project going on in Kirtland, Washington. We got 40 acres that we're developing right here in our own backyard right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we got it going on in Puerto Rico. We got it going on in Phoenix. We're doing it. We're living it. We're breathing it. Why go and reinvent the wheel when our way works? If you feel overwhelmed, stop trying to do it your way and just implement a system that's already set in place for you. And that's all you have to do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys. It's Wednesday, 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Real Talk on Real Estate. If you like the information, you want to see more information, more content just like this, hit that subscribe button, pound that bell so that you're notified every time content like this is being distributed and being recorded. And ladies and gentlemen, give us a big fat thumbs up. Give us a little bit of love. If you like the content, the information that you guys saw today, right now, take a minute, give us a big fat thumbs up. Again, we put in the chat that Calendly link. Schedule a strategy call if you have interest in working with myself, my team, in learning the processes on how to develop and redevelop real estate, how to go out and make $60,000 to $150,000 per year supplemental income through our proven system on how we develop and redevelop real estate each and every year. We've been doing it for many years. You want to be a part of it, join us. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of Real Talk on Real Estate. Every Wednesday, 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Tune in and we'll see you next week. Thank you and God bless.